and welcome to our special live coverage of the University of Montevallo's 21st Annual Life Raft Debate. I'm Khalil Kiles.
And I'm Stephanie Michael. Thanks for joining us on the Montevallo For You YouTube channel. You're taking a live look at Palmer Auditorium, where the Life Raft Debate will get underway in just a few minutes. And we're anchoring our coverage of the Life Raft Debate from UM's state-of-the-art television studio in Strong Hall. This live stream is brought to you by UM's Mass Communication program.
So, let's set the stage for what you guys will see tonight. The Life Raft Debate is set after a fictional catastrophic disaster. Human civilization must be rebuilt, but there is only one spot left on the raft. The faculty members who will be on stage tonight will defend their respective disciplines, trying to get the final spot on the raft.
After their arguments are made, their fate is in your hands, the audience, including you online viewers, to vote for who is worthy of their last seat. The winner will get their name added to the coveted oar.
Before we head back over to Palmer Auditorium for the debate, let's take a look at the faculty members who will be competing this year. First up is Dr. Courtney Bentley, Dean of the College of Education. She was named Dean earlier this year after serving as Associate Dean at UAB. Before that, Dr. Bentley was an associate professor here at UM and the director of the Malone Center for Excellence in Teaching. She earned her EDD from Teachers College at Columbia University.
Next up is Dr. Alex Behringer. He's an associate professor of English and the coordinator of UM's master's program in English. Dr. Behringer has held fellowships with the National Endowment for the Humanities and the University of Cambridge. His specialties include 19th century American literature and comics and graphic narratives. He earned his PhD from the University of Wisconsin.
Associate Professor Emily Gill teaches in the theater department. In addition to her teaching duties, Professor Gill is on the board of directors of the Montevallo Arts Council. She's also the 2015 winner for Broadway World Birmingham Best Costume Design for a local play or musical. Professor Gill earned her MFA in drama from the University of Georgia.
Next up is adjunct instructor Laura McMillan. She teaches new media arts. That's her boxing against a kangaroo in this poster the art department made to promote her participation in this year's Life Raft Debate. She holds an MFA in sculpture from Hunter College and a BFA in photography from UM.
Representing the Department of Behavioral and Social Sciences is Dr. Scott Turner. He's a professor of political science. His research interests include human rights, anarchist theory, and national parks. Dr. Turner earned his PhD from the University of Georgia.
This year's debate MC is Dr. Scott Varagona. He's an associate professor of mathematics. Dr. Varagona is an 8-time Alabama State chess champion. He achieved the title of National Master in 2012. He holds a PhD from Auburn University. Dr. Varagona is also the only person in UM history to win the Life Raft Debate's coveted oar 3 times. He won in 2013, 2015, and again in 2017 when he competed as the Devil's Advocate. In that role, Dr. Varagona successfully argued that none of the panelists were worthy of the final spot on the Life Raft. As this year's MC, Dr. Varagona is ineligible for votes. And we want you to be a part of the Life Raft Debate experience no matter where you're watching from.
Join in the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag UMLifeRaft. Tweet us your comments about tonight's debate, and we will feature some of them during tonight's live stream.
And later in the broadcast, you'll be able to cast your vote for who should get the last seat on the Life Raft via Twitter using the UMLifeRaft hashtag.
Joining us in the studio to analyze this year's debate is Communication Studies major Jonathan Brewer.
Welcome, Jonathan. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me tonight.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background as a communication studies major?
Sure. I came to Montevallo and I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, and I decided to take a look at what I was passionate about. And I really enjoyed talking to people. I really enjoyed making presentations, putting those together, and I enjoyed deliberative communication, similar to what the professors are going to be doing tonight.
Jonathan, what persuasion strategies do you think each professor is going to use for tonight's debate?
I think that they're going to use 3 common appeals. Most people have heard of them. It's like ethos, pathos, logos. Whenever you're trying to make your case, you have to build up credibility. And the appeals to ethos, they have to act like they know what they're talking about, and they have to send that message across. At the same time, I think there's a danger for people to lean towards logos too heavily, where they talk about logical arguments and stuff like that. And while that can help you, and it can also help you build up your credibility, I think they're really going to need to appeal to the emotional aspects of the audience with pathos appeals. I think in order to get those votes, they're really going to have to lean on the sensibilities of the audience's emotions here.
And do you have any predictions on which professors are going to do well tonight?
I would love to see Dr. Alex Berenger win, just because I've had him before. I'm a little biased, but I think he has the potential to lean a little too close to the logos, logical arguments and everything. And from who I've talked to, a lot of people seem to think that Professor Gill will actually come out on top and that she'll be really persuasive in those emotional areas.
Well, thanks so much for being here. We look forward to your analysis later in the broadcast.
Thank you, no problem.
We're going to take a quick break right here.
As we head to break, here's another live look at Palmer Auditorium as we're just minutes away from the start of the debate.
You're watching special live coverage of the 2018 Life Raft debate from the University of Montevallo. We'll be right back.
When news breaks, we'll be here, reporting the stories that matter to you.
Tune in each week for the news that affects your life.
And keep up with us 24/7 on social media.
We are Valor Vision News.
There's something about the outdoors, the challenge of the pursuit, the preparation for something greater, a dedication to a craft, and the responsibility for generations to come. An opportunity found nowhere else in the country. The President's Outdoors Scholars Program, only at the University of Montevallo.
I am becoming a sorority member.
I am becoming a leader in my fraternity.
A part of college night.
A world traveler. A social media expert.
A military officer.
A campus tour guide.
A community volunteer. I am becoming a retail marketer.
A pre-law professional.
An educational administrator.
A photojournalist.
Become more than you ever dreamed possible with a degree from the University of Montevallo. Your future is waiting.
Your success depends upon effective communication. Visit montevallo.edu/COFA. You create your future in communication studies and mass communication. You belong at Montevallo.
When news breaks, we'll be here, reporting the stories that matter to you.
Tune in each week for the news that affects your life.
And keep up with us 24/7 on social media.
We are Valor Vision News.
There's something about the outdoors, the challenge of the pursuit, the preparation for something greater, a dedication to a craft, and the responsibility for generations to come. An opportunity found nowhere else in the country. The President's Outdoors Scholars Program, only at the University of Montevallo.
I am becoming a sorority member.
I am becoming a leader in my fraternity.
A part of college night.
A world traveler. A social media expert.
A military officer.
A campus tour guide.
A community volunteer. I am becoming a retail marketer.
A pre-law professional.
An educational administrator.
A photojournalist.
Become more than you ever dreamed possible with a degree from the University of Montevallo. Your future is waiting.
What will you become?
Welcome back to our special live coverage of the 2018 Life Raft debate.
The debate will start in just a few minutes.
So, have you guys been to the Life Raft debate before?
I personally haven't. I've seen clips of it, and I've seen, I've read in the newspaper about it, but I haven't actually been at one.
Yeah, I went my freshman year, and it was really interesting. I didn't think that there would be so many different arguments for so many different disciplines, but they made some interesting points. I don't remember them exactly, but they were good.
I went my freshman year as well.
Okay, and we're getting word that we are going to toss over to Palmer for the start of the debate.
Oops. Hello, Hurricane Michael survivors. My class had really high absentee rates. All three of them did Monday. And the student says, probably because of the hurricane. If that counts as an excuse, anyway, I'm sorry, it's a bad thing, but not for here. We got much needed rain. Anyway, I'm Michael Patton. I teach in philosophy, which is subsumed under the English and Foreign Languages Department. And this is the 21st year of Raft. Thank you for coming out for it. I know what y'all are thinking. 4 more years and he'll probably retire. Yeah, I'm going for 30. So I just want to make some thanks, and then we'll get on with the show. First of all, thanks to Jay Cofield and his crew from MassCom for providing the video coverage, which will be an interesting ordeal this time because they're remote broadcasting it from Strong Hall. So Godspeed, video crew. To Marion Brown and her legions of minions for getting all of this set up, especially after the nightmare of logistics that is Founders Day. To Kristen Gilbert for the vote counting, which is probably one of the most harrowing things I've ever seen. To 2 of the Steves, Forrester and Parker, for their lifelong commitment to the Life Raft debate and all of their help. To Scott Varagona for agreeing not to get voted for this year so that he doesn't win like his 18th yearly Life Raft debate title, but he's going to be the MC, so you'll still get your dose of Dr. Varagona. Andrew Fancher and the Palmer staff make a whole lot of things happen at the last minute, like when I think of them, like, oh God, we should have done this. Suddenly it's done. And for my wife Cheryl Patton for putting up with all of this and too many other things to mention. Philosophy Club members, pass out your ballots that I gave them to pass out, even though some of them had already been written on. But we can let bygones be bygones, right? Just remember, we're all still alive after the hurricane. So what difference do a couple of pre-marked ballots make? Fake news. Andrea Eckelman and Aaron Chandler, former participants, gave a lot of recruitment help this year. The English and Foreign Languages Department, which I mentioned before, have provided support, as has the university. This is a lot of logistical and material support that is well appreciated. To all participants, past, present, and future, especially people that are definitely going to participate next year, like our new provost, Dr. Jim McDonald. Remember, he committed to it right now when I said that. So don't let him off the hook. And last but not least, to all the great audiences. You guys, y'all make it possible. Thanks very much. And now I shall take my leave of the stage, and out will come Dr. Varagona and the victims, participants. All right. Over here, sir. Over here. You're giving out some extra credit to this. Next up, if it weren't for this professor, the theater department would be arrested for excessive nudity. The much in-demand costume designer and makeup expert representing theater, Emily Gill. Next up, the highest ranking professor on the panel. She's Dean of the College of Education, so she'll learn you a thing or two. Representing curriculum and teaching, please welcome Courtney Bentley. In the words of Pocahontas, can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Our next panelist can. Straight out of Block Hall, representing art, please give it up for Laura McMillan. And last but far from least, he lived for years in Comer Hall before it was renovated, which means he can survive any apocalypse. The man who proved to UM that comics and graphic novels are serious business, representing English, please welcome Alex Behringer. Wow. Okay. Now, before we begin, something to keep in mind. Last year, you all had 4 perfectly nice professors to choose from. You could have done great with any of them. But instead, you sided with me, the devil's advocate, and drowned them all. Again. And that's why I'm here now. Again. Even I have to say, isn't this getting a little out of hand? You people are ruthless. But
after thinking about it, I realized maybe it isn't you. Maybe it's me. Do you realize what I've done? I have convinced a crowd of hundreds of people to drown 4 or 5 perfectly nice professors. I turned you all into bloodthirsty killers. And I've done that not once, not twice, but 3 times. I'm starting to scare myself. Look. Look. Have you seen my body count? Look at it. Look at it. I'm too good at this. I gave a few arguments, cracked a few jokes, and ta-da! Death and destruction. If you people keep voting for me to be your leader year after year, the drownings will never cease. The reign of terror will never end. And, worst of all, I'll never get a vacation. So, please, this year, for me, save one of them. Throw them a bone, okay? This year, you're saving one of them whether you like it or not. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get started. We'll begin with the panelist nearest to me, Scott Turner. Let's welcome Scott Turner.
Good evening. Can you hear me in the back? Why should I, a political scientist, be awarded a seat on the life raft? First and foremost, because I have never assaulted anyone. Lies, all lies. But I do like beer. Beer is good. Beer is strong. Beer is masculine. But I digress. Man is by nature a political animal. Possibly the most intelligent person who has ever lived said that. No, not Donald Trump. It was Aristotle. And I invite you to think about what Aristotle meant by that. Politics is actually the very essence of being human. It's one of the most basic things that defines us. Only human beings, apart from all other animals, do politics. Now, some people hate politics, but I'm here to tell you that you will ignore politics at your will. And I want to extend this scenario out a bit for you. You're on a life raft. Tonight, it's fun and games. But imagine the coming days. Things are going to get very tough for us, floating on the seas, looking for land. We'll be without a lot of drinkable water. We'll be without food. And before long, those of us who love each other tonight We'll be breaking into fights. We'll be struggling just to survive. I'm being real here. What do I, as a political scientist, have to offer to that scenario? Well, I can tell you that a very astute political thinker by the name of Thomas Hobbes, that some of you know about because you've been in my classes, he described this scenario that we will all be facing in just a few days as a state of nature. Life without government, which he described as solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. It'll be tough. But he also gave us a possible solution to it. Now, there's a political scientist in the 20th century by the name of Harold Lasswell who said that, this went out. Okay, good. That politics is defined as who gets what, when, and how. Well, Thomas Hobbes answered that question by saying the only way out of that miserable state of nature is to give all authority to one person to make the decisions for the rest of us. And after days of conflict, that actually might seem pretty attractive to some of us. We might choose who we think is the kindest, the wisest to make those decisions. Or perhaps one or two or three of you will actually struggle and fight with one another for that status. But we might grant that. And so things might seem pretty calm and pretty cool for a few days because the fighting is over. But it might turn out that we haven't chosen the wisest or the kindest person to be that Leviathan that Hobbes described for us. And that's an apt metaphor for a life raft. It means sea monster. It might be that we've chosen some sinister, selfish SOB like Dr. Verragona. And then things won't look so great anymore, will they? And so, we political scientists, we can offer you a second option, which we draw from a very astute political thinker named John Locke. John Locke said, we don't want to give anyone all the power to make our decisions for us. We really want government, which is what we'll have on our life raft. We want it to protect us, to protect our rights, to protect our properties. And maybe some of us have some properties that we've brought on board at the last minute. Maybe a few of us have brought our own food supplies and water supplies. So maybe that'll sound okay. Give some power to a decision maker, but limit it. And that may work for a few more days. But then we discover, you know what? It was only a few people who brought food and water on board. And the rest of us are getting very hungry and very thirsty. And so the Locke plan doesn't look so great anymore because a few are hoarding the necessities of life and the rest of us suffer. And so I can offer you a third option from a guy named Rousseau. And he said, the purpose of government isn't to protect a few people's property. It's to protect the general will, the common good, which we will all decide by voting, and the majority rules. And so we vote as a majority and we decide that the few people who have the food and the water, they got to share. And so we're all fed and we're satisfied for a few more days. But then all of the food and water runs out and desperation sets in again. And what do? We vote as a majority, perhaps, that, is Emily Bowen here tonight? That Emily might make a tasty meal for the rest of us. Rousseau is specific about this. If the sovereign, the decision maker, decides that you must die for the common good, then you must die. And so suddenly majority rule doesn't sound so awesome anymore. I cannot give you a perfect solution to this. Any one of you who stands up in the life raft and says, I can solve all of the problems and only I can do that for you, toss him overboard and make room for one of us. But what I can tell you is that there is an inherited wisdom that I can convey about how we make decisions, how we organize our lives going forward. And in fact, I would argue that we need more students who are informed and insightful about who gets what, when, and how, as we all try to steer this course and survive on the great life raft that we call planet Earth. Thank you.
My, oh my. After offering that olive branch just now, I feel like I just suffered a personal attack. It seems somewhat rude, don't you think? Well, if the essence of humanity really is politics, then sounds like we're screwed. The other thing that popped in my mind was, being a political scientist, he sure did quote a lot of philosophers. Maybe he's actually asking us to bring Dr. Patton out here and defend philosophy instead of political science. Very interesting. A political scientist doesn't quote a single politician. Are we ready for the next panelist in line? That would be Emily Gill.
Hello. I'm Wardrobe. You probably haven't seen me before because it is my job to be invisible. But I'm there. I'm here. For you. Wardrobe is there before you arrive for your performance call, pressing your pants, shining your shoes, polishing your armor, cleaning, preparing, caring. You don't have to iron your own shirt or sort your socks. You walk into a clean, safe environment with everything laid out just for you. Because you have bigger things to worry about. An audience is arriving in 30 minutes with big expectations to fill. You have worlds to create, objectives to attain. It's a big weight on your shoulders. You wonder if you can do it. You've trained for this. Are you really ready? It's okay. Wardrobe is poised just off stage, out of sight, ready to handle any crisis that arises. All you have to do is run off stage and Wardrobe is right there with what you need. We wear these aprons filled with essential tools. We've got baby wipes, Kleenex, Band-Aids, 5 kinds of tape. You got a busted seat in your pants? I got you. Your shoes are rubbing a blister? I got you. A button pops off. I have safety pins. They're there. You're safe again. It's okay. It's not your fault. It happens to everyone. Wardrobe is what knows what you need before you need it, because wardrobe is what you need in the moment. I am the unseen hand at your throat that ties your tie, at your feet that ties your shoes, at your back that ties the curtain together to protect your privacy, to protect you. Sometimes you have to change quickly. Sometimes more quickly than is reasonable. But it's okay. Wardrobe has a plan. You run off stage into a phalanx of hands that change you from one look into another, swiftly, quietly, efficiently. Sometimes wardrobe gets kicked, stepped on, poked in the eye. It's because you freak out. You start to flail. You don't have confidence. You don't know if you're going to make it. But it's okay. Just remain calm. Trust. Wardrobe passion. At the end of the night, you get to triumph in well-deserved applause. While you're doing that, wardrobe is picking up all the discarded costumes, clearing pathways, restoring everything to the way it was before. Go on. Go see your friends who've come to see you. Accept their praise. Enjoy the moment, because you know that wardrobe is filling a sink with hot soapy water to wash by hand the things that you wear closest to your body. To wash away the sweat and the effort of the night, so that you will have a fresh, clean start, so that you will have an opportunity to triumph again. Wardrobe knows all about you. But wardrobe doesn't judge you. Wardrobe knows everything about everybody. And from that vantage point, everyone is the same. Wardrobe accepts everyone that comes to them, regardless of creed, race, gender, attitude towards deodorant. Wardrobe handles the damp socks of everyone equally, because wardrobe knows that all feet smell the same. Kind of like feta cheese. Thank you.
Well, I must say, I don't know about you, but I feel safer already. Yes. We may be starving to death and lost at sea, but we are going to be dressed to kill. All right. So next up, we invite Courtney Bentley.
And I have to stand up here. Right? Okay. Oh. I'm also in public education, which means we constantly have problems. Okay. Hi. How is everyone tonight? Good? Yeah? This is my first Raft debate ever. Never been here before, and I'm really excited to be here. I also understand that folks in my college over in education don't come very often. I don't know why. I'm looking forward to trying to represent. I mean, we know that teachers need a champion. Am I right? Thank you. But I am really fortunate because I have the opportunity, the unique opportunity to defend not one, but 2 disciplines, which automatically makes me twice as valuable. Now, they are inextricably linked. They are curriculum and teaching. You cannot have one without the other, but they are not the same thing. They're typically lumped together under education, but they have their own tenets. Curriculum is often viewed as content, but its meaning is varied. The simplest reduction of curriculum defines it as either prescriptive or descriptive. Ellis defines prescriptive curriculum as what ought to happen, a plan, an intended outcome, or some kind of expert opinion about what needs to take place in a course of study. For example, it is prescriptive positions on curriculum that require all of you to take fine arts, political science, and English for your general education requirements. Descriptive curriculum, however, is experience and associated action. John Dewey theorized that curriculum is a continuous reconstruction, moving from the child's present experience out into that represented by organized bodies of truth that we call studies. Now, whether we define curriculum in prescriptive or descriptive terms, the bottom line, what we're here to find out about. We're seeking to understand whose knowledge matters most. Whose knowledge is truth? Curriculum theory seeks to understand how knowledge is situated and privileged. So as a curriculum theorist, I call on all of you, my biology, chemistry, math people, because I would fight to keep you in this required curriculum, but perhaps argue that none of these disciplines need to be represented in that general education. I know, Ryan is silly. I know. Teaching is the carrier of these knowledges as they must be constructed. Teaching is the way we mediate both prescriptive and descriptive curricula. Teaching is process and practice. What a teacher is ultimately more important than what he or she teaches. In this regard, teaching is art, teaching is theater, and teaching is understanding the political nature of the curriculum. Teaching is about building relationships. Teaching inspires imagination. Teaching fosters critical thinking. Teaching promotes innovation and problem solving. Teaching changes lives. And all for the average starting salary of $38,617 per year. Right? That makes me resourceful and efficient. Teachers are skilled with conflict resolution and behavior management, and they do not subscribe to or tolerate anarchy. If that's not enough for you, if I haven't sold you yet, I have 3 words for you. June, July, and August. Yes! Teachers are smart enough to know that no human being should work in the summer. It should not happen. In addition, teachers are first responders, doctors, nurses, social workers, caregivers, counselors, mentors, coaches. Teachers are willing to tie wet shoelaces from children when they come out of the bathroom. Right? Hero. Thank you. Thank you. Teachers improve educational outcomes for children despite external mitigating circumstances. We deal with TV culture, violence, drugs, abuse, absentee parents, poverty, no role models, and we also teach children who are going through puberty. Right? We can survive anything. The Life Raft needs someone who can defend and save. Teachers are fighters. We battle impossible circumstances every day, and we persevere because we have an unparalleled and unwavering ethic of care for people like you. Teachers are really superheroes, and teaching is my superpower.
Well, now I've seen everything. I don't know what I was expecting, but I was not expecting a random Ryu from Courtney Bentley. So I am impressed. Yeah. She didn't mention anything about those pesky standardized tests, did she? Well, they'll be passing the Scantrons around the Life Raft next, yeah. But I am very grateful that she did not mention any of the following 3 words or phrases: pedagogy, assessment, or best practices. Yeah. So that I appreciate, yes. All right, are we ready for our next panelist? Representing art, Laura McMillan.
All right. So first of all, I want to start because I feel like you guys are probably expecting me to argue that art is a symbol of a civilized society, and we want to be a civilized society and express that. And this is the thing. As you'll find later on tonight, possibly, I have no interest in being too civilized. I'm not very civil, though I do dress sharp. So it's not really up to art to decide whether our new society will be civil. What decides whether we're civil is if we can shelter ourselves, if we remember the history that came before us that got us into this mess in the first place, and we have faith that we're going to continue living instead of descending into total chaos. So, first of all, I just want to present to you guys art history. So art history is something that every artist has imprinted within them. And art history is a special kind of history. It's the history of what all of these different political systems, what society, what living in a place in time, what that looks like and what it feels like. And without that history and a memory of that history, we're missing a lot. Like, can you imagine if we lost the work of Leonardo da Vinci, a great mind that challenged the conventional wisdom today, a symbol of the Enlightenment, or collage artist Hannah Hoke, who was living in Nazi Germany and was ostracized for her artwork, but also was very obviously affected by an intense proliferation of print culture and the Nazi cult of the perfect body and how that affected women in her era. Or even more recently, the work of David Wojnarowicz that expresses the great tragedy that was our government completely ignoring the AIDS crisis in the 80s and 90s. So it's important to remember these things so that we don't repeat them. And I think it's important to remember what it's like to be an individual during these things. So what next? Well, you're going to need shelter, right? And the great thing is that all the art students, whether they like it or know it, have an innate knowledge of geometry and specifically perspective geometry. So when you're doing perspective drawing, when you're doing 3D design on the computer, when you're making sculpture, you're teaching yourself how objects fit together in space. It's going to be pretty important in our new world. I mean, there's a reason that they call the Dark Ages the Dark Ages. There was no perspective. And then third of all, the most important thing, I think that an intense faith that we're going to survive is going to be most important. And I will tell you, as an artist that lived in New York for 13 years and scraped by and did all kinds of crazy jobs, which we will not mention here, to be able to do my art. Being an artist is a faith that this job that you've made for yourself, that this thing that you're making that possibly nobody wants to know or hear about or take part in, will someday be important and contribute to that collective history that all artists before you have contributed to. So I think unwavering faith like that, a faith in survival, knowing how to get by with very little, is going to be imperative in our new world. So thank you guys.
Well, I'm honestly a little afraid to criticize Laura because I just learned two things. One, she's a UM alum, and two, she used to work at Eclipse, so I may be in trouble with Dr. Patton. But talk about, yes, faith and inspiration. I mean, just look at that. Doesn't that inspire you? Yes, it inspires me, that's for sure. And now, our last panelist for this first round, for the opening remarks, I'd like to welcome Alex Behringer, defending English.
Hey there. So, if you've heard or seen me around campus, you probably know me as the comics guy. I teach courses on graphic novels, superheroes, digital comics. I even do an exhibit in the library from time to time. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay. But comics are only part of what I do. I'm also the English guy. I teach and study novels, poetry, plays, a little bit of film. Doesn't that sound good? I can tell you anything you need to know about 19th century American literature. Now, I came to you tonight because I want to talk about this whole apocalypse thing. See, when we're talking about the end of the world, I don't think it's going to be floods. I don't think it's going to be zombies, pestilence, whatever. I think the biggest threat we're going to face is ourselves. That, by the way, is like the first thing you learn when you read The Walking Dead, right? Like, it is never the zombies, right? It's always the humans. You know, the first sign of like any kind of little obstacle, right? Like, I don't know, you know, bad weather, starvation, they run out of sunscreen, right? Like the first time anything happens, right, like they're just at each other's throats and the zombies are, you know, just on the sideline, like not knowing what to do and they're just saying, "Gah!" You know, because they're zombies, right? You get it? Yeah. Okay. But, you know, you don't need a hypothetical scenario of the Life Raft debate to imagine this happening, okay? Here and now, we're doing a very, very adequate job of looking past each other, being cruel to each other, you know. You can go on any comment section of any website, you can check out cable news, check out social media, you know, and you'll see plenty of insensitivity and cruelty all around, okay? And I think that's the biggest threat that we face. And so here's where literature comes in. Okay? I think it's our strongest defense against this kind of thing. You see, literature and the stories we tell ourselves, right, they're more than just entertainment. They're more than just things that thrill us, you know, pass the time, right? Literature teaches us about other perspectives, right? They convey other parts of the human experience. You know, the folks over in the psychology department can tell you all about this, right? Like people's brains light up in like the empathy section, you know, when they read literature, right? People who read lots of stories, think about a lot of stories, they're much better at putting themselves in somebody else's shoes, okay? Now, I don't know anything about psychology, but I think I can sketch out, yeah, I really don't. But I think I can sketch out a little bit of how and why this works. I think that really great storytellers can convey to us the texture of human experience, right? So like a really great storyteller can put you in somebody else's shoes, they can put you in the moment, they can convince you that whatever is going on inside your head, whatever you're thinking or feeling is shared by somebody else, okay? And we can point to lots of examples of this. One that always pops into my mind, you know, because I'm a 19th century American literature guy, is the literature of the anti-slavery movement. And here I want to talk a little bit about Uncle Tom's Cabin. This is this famous anti-slavery novel by Harriet Beecher Stowe, right? And this novel is most famous for its startling image of Eliza, the slave woman, running across the ice, fleeing from slave catchers, clutching her baby to her breast, trying like hell to keep her family together, right? And after people in the 1840s and 1850s read this, they were unable to countenance slavery, right? They were able to put themselves in that person's shoes. They were unable to see that person as property and see them as a person, okay? They said, if you can read Uncle Tom's Cabin, you can't countenance slavery, you can't countenance family separation, okay? And we can point to lots of examples here. If you can read The Handmaid's Tale, yeah. You can't be for misogyny, you can't look the other way on sexual assault. If you can read King Lear, you can't be indifferent to the suffering of your parents, to your grandparents as they get older. If you can read Jurassic Park, you can't keep velociraptors in cages. Because life finds a way, man. Life finds a way! Okay, and so this circles us back around to comics. Because if you can read Charlie Brown, Spider-Man or Wonder Woman, or Fun Home, you can be reminded that someone else out there shares your perspective. Someone else maybe shares your sense of screwball humor, maybe has your taste for action, your sense of right and wrong. If you can read comics, you can be reminded every week that someone will tell your truth and that you're not alone. And so a vote for English is a vote for that. I will remind you that you are not alone. Thank you.
Most impressive, I must say. You kind of lost me there with the velociraptors, but yeah. The time has now come for the rebuttal period. Ooh, yes. Now's where the gloves really come off. We'll maintain the same order as before. We'll start with Scott Turner.
Hello again. So, first of all, I just want to point out there will be no PowerPoints on the Life Raft. In fact, as we have seen, we barely had them on stage tonight. I would also point out that contrary to Dr. Varagona's comment about my citing philosophers rather than political scientists, actually, philosophy is a subset of political science. But I wouldn't expect a mathematician to know that. Look, I had the honor of participating in the very first Life Raft debate 21 years ago. And I want to just very, very briefly recap the argument that I made at that time. I suggested to the audience basically that the game was rigged, right? And what I meant by that was, look, if you really think about it, there are only 4 or 5 of us competing for one last spot on the Life Raft. What's to stop a few of us from hanging on the edge in the water, and then after a while, maybe some of you will agree to swap out, and through a little sensible cooperation, we could all stand a reasonable chance of surviving. Political scientists understand that outcomes are often determined by the way the game is designed. Okay, here in America, in less than a month, we'll have the opportunity to go vote on November 6th. And by the way, I hope everyone is registered, and I hope you will vote. Because that's more important than anything that happens here tonight. But the way we have elections designed in the United States, there are going to be some congressional districts where candidates have a very tight race, and they may be 51 to 49%. And the one seat will go to the person who wins 51. And 49% will feel like losers, like they're not represented. That's not the only way to do democracy. There are many countries in the world that have proportional representation systems where people vote for party lists and seats in the legislature are distributed according to the percentage of vote that each party gets from the population. So no one feels like a loser. Everyone gets some representation. So outcomes are determined by the way the game is designed. And I think it's very important to have the insight to understand that sometimes it's necessary to change the rules of the game in order to change the range of possible outcomes. Okay? And I would suggest the same thing I suggested 21 years ago, that we change the rules of the game. In political parlance, and here's where the anarchist comes in, that's called revolution. And that means that Dr. Varagona and Dr. Patton better watch their backs.
I feel personally attacked. So, apparently, he's not only talking about philosophy, now he's switched to game theory.
Also a subset of
Oh yes, now everything's a subset of political science. Isn't it quaint when a panelist argues that their discipline can solve every problem? Yes, vote for political science because it can do everything. And as for changing the rules of the game, you agreed to play the game. Think about that. Next up, we'll hear a rebuttal from Emily Gill.
You have an interesting privilege today. You have the privilege of choice. You get to decide who lives and who dies. Your privilege comes to you by circumstance, by luck. Somehow everything in history has lined up so that you were there. And we are here. You are safe. We are in peril. Interesting thing that we have to compete for your benevolence. We compete, we tear each other down for your approval, not for your approval's sake, but for our survival. I mentioned my apron in my other speech, but I forgot to mention something that I have in there. I have these. They're scissors. Scissors are an interesting tool. You can use them to create new things. You can also use them to cut the connections that hold things together. Creation and destruction in one tool. You know, the only thing that matters is the intention of the person holding them, the choice that they make in the moment. You have a choice to make. Here you are, standing at the crossroads of creation and destruction. Well, on one hand, we've got on the other hand, we've got I look forward to seeing what you choose.
Well, yes, just when I thought we had this nice, friendly, safety pinning, helping hand for the life raft, now I feel like we've perhaps got a psychopath with scissors. Maybe I was a bit too hasty with that don't drown them all business. Next up, we'll hear the rebuttal from Courtney Bentley.
Thank you. Well, first of all, we don't support any threats of violence in schools, so I'm going to have to replace wardrobe with my own wardrobe, since I have my superpower here. Sorry, wardrobe, but I had to come prepared. The other thing that I found interesting was the essence of humanity, and that humans are the only species that have politics. Well, if the root of politics is power and property, then I would disagree. But I would argue that humans are the only species that have to learn how to read and write, and I can do that. Now, the argument about literature being a pathway into empathy, I adore. I thought that was brilliant. And as educators, we work very hard to channel empathy because within pedagogy, we have to learn how to differentiate instruction to meet the needs of diverse learners. And so we tell our students it's pretty simple. We're kind of like plants. Plants need sun, soil, and water to grow. But if I give a cactus and a sunflower the same amount of water, one of them will die. And so I have to learn how to differentiate that. And the only way I can do that is to challenge the way I see my students and how I see myself in relationship to them. So I work really hard to make the decisions that are in their best interests. And I would work really hard to understand you and your positions and best meet your needs. Goodness, where else was I? Oh, standardized testing. First of all, anyone who actually is in education in schools, not political scientists and policymakers up in Washington, hate standardized testing. That's right. They do, because it's reductionist, it narrows the curriculum, and it's absolutely abhorrent to make a critical decision about a human being based on one single measure. So, to that, I can assure you, I would never do that. Now, I will assess the situation once I'm on board, because I want to do what I believe is fair, and I will also be sure to include best practice as I row in the life raft. Thank you.
Well, I'm triggered. I must say though, I'm relieved that she's going to lay off the standardized test. That's yeah. Okay. This is getting serious now, isn't it? This is getting serious. Next up, the rebuttal from Laura McMillan. Art.
First of all, I just want to start, and maybe this is that whole kind of like artist faith thing, or never being satisfied with what's in front of me. But there seems to be a lot of assuming that we are the only boat or the only survivors. As far as I can tell, there's no stipulations that this is the only boat that's surviving. This is just the only one that's leaving from Montevallo. So that's great, except for I'm sure that there are other boats out there, or there's at least one other boat. And I really like you guys, but I'm sure that other boat has some information and maybe some people that I'd like to meet and communicate with that don't speak English. And there are a lot of assumptions going on the stage that we're all communicating in the same language and we're only coming in contact with each other. And this is why art will be helpful if that's not the truth. Has anyone, I don't know where the closest IKEA is to here. Is it Atlanta? Okay, anyone ever seen IKEA directions? All in pictures. You know why? Because they don't want to put it in different languages. We're going to need pictures. Just putting that out there. If the other boat comes along, we want to talk to them.
Oh yes, a very interesting argument. There could be other boats out there somewhere. There could be leprechauns out there somewhere. There could be unicorns out there somewhere. And now finally, our last rebuttal, Alex Behringer, English.
Okay, folks, first of all, Dr. Varagona. Justice for velociraptors. Okay, now all of these things sound great to me. You know, revolution, we're hanging by our fingertips, we're just gonna climb up, you know, get back in the raft. Baby wipes, secrets, you know, sounds kind of comforting, but also a little scary. I think I read a book like that sometime. I don't know. Standardized testing, right? I totally agree, should not be on the life raft, right? And then, you know, pictures and maps, right? I do pictures, yeah, it's great, you know. Okay, but you know, I was trained in English literature, and everybody seems to be missing one big thing here, which is to say that there is no life raft. The life raft is, say it with me, a metaphor. Yeah. And so the question we're really asking ourselves is not, how do you stop the other dudes on the life raft? Do you need baby wipes on the life raft? What kind of testing we prefer on the life raft? Pictures, no pictures, IKEA. I mean, I would like IKEA on life raft. Okay. But what we're asking really is, what is that thing that's going to sustain you for the rest of your life? Right? Right? That's really what we're asking. You know, and that's why I think English has the strongest claim. You know, towards the end of my initial talk, I talked about these stories that sustain us, you know, these things we check in on to make sure that we know that we're not alone, right? That we know that we share perspectives both with people who are like us and people who are unlike us. Now for me, that happens to be some really weird screwball comics. Would you like me to describe one? Okay. My favorite comic is this weird comic from the 1930s called Crazy Cat. Anybody heard it? Yeah. Oh, we got some Crazy Cat fans. Okay. So the Crazy Cat fans can tell you all about the bizarre love triangle that is Crazy Cat between a cat, a mouse, and a brick. Which is to say, the cat's in love with the mouse, and the mouse is in love with throwing the brick at the cat. And the brick, it's just a brick, right? Like, that's the point at which the love triangle metaphor breaks down. Okay. And so I love Crazy Cat, right? It's something that I come back to when I need relief, when I need a good laugh. And so whatever's going on in my life, trouble at work, trouble at home, I have that little release, okay? And so what I'm asking you is, if the life raft is indeed a metaphor, and you are indeed asking what sustains yourself, right? I would say a vote for English is that vote for saying you can sustain yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Behringer. That was a very lovely thought. The life raft is a metaphor. Funny thing is, that's what I said at the life raft debate 2 years ago when I first won as devil's advocate. This life raft is a metaphor for life, I said. Shocking that an English professor quotes me without any trace of citation. No MLA format, no nothing. Shocking, scandalous. All right, with that, it appears the time has come to vote. So we will shortly give instructions for voting up on the screen, but I'll describe them for you now. On your Scantron, if you wish to vote for Scott Turner, you will mark A in slot number 1 for question 1. If you wish to vote for Emily Gill, you'll put A in slot 2. A in slot 3 for Courtney Bentley, A in slot 4 for Laura McMillan, and A in slot 5 for Alex Behringer. We'll have a visual up for you shortly. That was it. Thank you, Dr. Behringer. It was there. So please submit your votes. A representative will pick them up, and then we'll see the results.
Now I have a new hat. Not a tragedy. Oh yeah, I have a couple.
Where's the microphone?
Due to yet another planning error, Dr. Turner was listed twice on that graphic on the screen, both as number 1 and number 5. It is, of course, obvious that number 5 is Alex Behringer. So pay no attention to the slide on the screen in regards to who you're voting for if you enter 5A.
5A is Alex Behringer. 5A, Alex Behringer.
1A
No mic for you. Okay. No, man.
Yeah, you can just slice it with that. No, that's okay. You start. No, we're good. Our perfectly fine is good. Our perfectly capable of being positive. No, I know. Yeah, she brought her coffee.
Your success depends upon effective communication. Visit montevallo.edu/COFA. You create your future in communication studies and mass communication. You belong at Montevallo.
When news breaks, we'll be here, reporting the stories that matter to you.
Tune in each week for the news that impacts your life.
And keep up with us 24/7 on social media.
We are Valor Vision News.
There's something about the outdoors, the challenge of the pursuit, the preparation for something greater, a dedication to a craft, and the responsibility for generations to come. An opportunity found nowhere else in the country. The President's Outdoors Scholars Program, only at the University of Montevallo.
I am becoming a sorority member.
I am becoming a leader in my fraternity.
A part of college night.
A world traveler. A social media expert.
A military officer.
A campus tour guide.
A community volunteer. I am becoming a retail marketer.
A pre-law professional.
An educational administrator.
A photojournalist.
Become more than you ever dreamed possible with a degree from the University of Montevallo. Your future is waiting.
What will you become?
Welcome back to our special live coverage of the 2018 Life Raft debate.
Joining us is communication study major Jonathan Brewer to analyze this year's debate. So Jonathan, who do you think had the strongest argument?
I'm not 100% sure. I think it was pretty equal across the board. I think there was a little bit too much emphasis on like cheesy elements to that, and I think that they were going for that the pathos appeal, but I think it had a boomerang effect where, at least for me, while I was watching it, a lot of it I felt like if they were really roundabout arguments whenever they needed to be direct. I know I said I was biased earlier, but I think Behringer did the most effective of that with the comedic comics he was using personally.
Was there anybody that you think had kind of a weaker argument out of the group?
I think Turner, honestly, because he tried with that shade. He tried sending messages towards the other panelists, that kind of thing, trying to demean their argument. But I think he spent so much time doing that he didn't build up his at all. And I think that in order to win this, you have to have that credibility. Like Verragone is very good at playing up his personality and making it about him. And that can help whenever you're trying to get people to remember who you are. And I think that with Turner, he spent a lot of time talking about why other people were bad, or he started talking about midterm elections, which absolutely you should go vote in. But I think it really detracted overall from his, from his core argument of letting himself be on the boat. I think that audience members, at least going off the tweets that we saw, I think our audience members aren't really aligning themselves with him. I don't know. So.
Yeah. Do you? So you said you think Dr. Behringer is going to win.
I don't know if he'll win. I really do not know who will win. I think Behringer's argument was the most interesting to me. It kept my attention, and I think he brought up some really good points. His metaphor line was really funny, but I still think that there needed, at least in somebody's argument, there needed to be some really good push to get voters attached, and I don't know if that happened. So I don't know if Behringer will come out on top. That's who I would guess. I don't know about you guys, but that's who I'm leaning towards, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think he has some pretty good arguments.
Yeah, I think he definitely had some of the strongest arguments. I will be interested to see how many people still vote for Varagona, even though he's not a nominee.
Yeah,
I think
like write-in
plenty,
votes.
Plenty of write-in votes for Varagona still. Let's see. Do we have any other?
Well, it looks like the students are really into it this year. Like I said, last year and my freshman year, a lot of the students were kind of just kind of sitting there waiting for Varagona to come out. But this year, it looks like everybody, especially with the live tweets, it looks like everybody is getting into it this year.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of participation from students that we saw near and far, even from alum as well.
I also found it interesting the adapting that each speaker did, because they used PowerPoints, and then there were some tweets criticizing their use of PowerPoints, and then Turner pointed it out, how he didn't have a PowerPoint and everybody else did. And then for their closing ceremonies, I don't know if they threw them out, like if they didn't use them, but they didn't use PowerPoints, and I think that was deliberate. I think that was done on purpose. I think that was them trying to say our arguments can stand, without this other material. But I think that their credibility was already somewhat hurt by that zinger from Turner. But like I said, I don't know if Turner himself will have a strong enough argument to carry him through to the win. So.
Right.
I think Varagona might pull something under our noses this year.
Maybe.
I think Varagona might win again this year, even though Varagona is not on the ballot.
Not a possibility. It might still be a possibility.
I think he might come in and sneak in and make his way on the Raft.
He was making me a little nervous with that pitchfork.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get ready to go to a highlight from this evening.
Because I have never assaulted anyone. Lies, all lies. But I do like beer.
Definitely a good thing to have in a leader.
I was taken away by Emily taking off her glasses. When the glasses come off with Emily, it's serious. It's serious.
Anyone who's had her nose glasses come off, it's a moment.
The scissors.
Yes, she was definitely getting it was a little scary.
I think that had a bit of a boomerang effect too, because not only did it come off as, I think she was trying to come off as being threatening, but if you're in a life raft, like I saw the tweet earlier, if you're in a life raft, the scissors can pop it. You know what I mean? And she was like using it, she was speaking, I speak with my hands, but she was too, and I think that might detract a little bit. I don't know, I saw that and I was like, okay, I would have liked to see her and Varagona kind of go up with the scissors and the pitchfork. So.
Yeah.
Well, that raises my next question. Who will win, Emily and scissors or Varagona and pitchfork?
I'm going to say Varagona simply because I think he'd talk long enough and be sneaky long enough that he wouldn't even have to fight. He would just leave and he'd be fine. So, but I think if they actually got into a fight, I think that he would win because it's way easier to fight with a pitchfork. I mean,
Well, Jonathan, what discipline do you think we will need on the Life Raft?
Like if we were going up on the Life Raft, what would we need? I don't know. I think as cheesy as it sounds, I think a positive attitude is really important, and a confident attitude. And I think I believe that Behringer had that really well as well. So.
And we're going to toss it back over to Palmer.
Yeah, right. That's why most of us
The time has come to announce the winner of the 2018 Life Raft debate. And I'm happy to say that despite the lack of citation, it was indeed Alex Behringer. Congratulations. Come here. Little moment in the sun. Thanks for coming out, everybody. It was a tremendous thrill, as always, and we hope to see you next year. Thank you. Oh, yes, yes. Yes, let me get my...
And we're back. We're Communications Studies, Jonathan Brewer. What do you think about the winner, Jonathan?
I'm very excited. Like I said, I was rooting for Behringer from the beginning. I wish his argument would have been a little stronger, but I honestly think he tied it all together, and I think his presentation of the PowerPoints helped, and he's got this kind of wit to him that I think really helped get him that following in the in the audience, and I'm really proud of what he did.
Yeah, he was definitely a fan favorite from the beginning. So, let's see. And thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to all of you that tuned in to this live coverage of the 2018 Life Raft debate.
Have a great night, and we'll see you again next year.